Most developers using Claude Code are starting from zero every single session. The AI doesn't know your stack, doesn't know your conventions, doesn't know what you decided 3 days ago. Every prompt reteaches what should already be known. There is a single file that changes all of this, and most people using Claude Code don't know it exists. The file is called CLAUDE.md. It lives in your project root as a plain markdown file, and Claude Code reads it automatically before any conversation begins. Not as part of your context budget for a single session, as a permanent baseline that loads first, every time. It is the closest thing to a persistent memory that Claude Code has. Here is the problem Claude Code has by default. Every new session starts with zero knowledge of your project. Claude doesn't know you've banned var, doesn't know you're using named exports only, doesn't know your payment service has a wrapper that should never be bypassed. You start from scratch every single time, and most developers accept this as normal. It isn't. The cost of cold sessions compounds. You type, build a new auth hook. Claude builds one using patterns that don't match your code base, importing libraries you've replaced, missing error handling that's standard in your project. You correct it. Next session, the same thing happens again. The context is lost even when the code isn't. Claude.md solves this at the root. Claude.md is a briefing document, not a config file, not a system prompt, not a README. You write it once and update it as the project evolves, and Claude Code uses it as the operating context for every session. Think of it as the institutional knowledge of your project, made permanently available to Claude before the first message is sent. The mechanism is simple. When Claude Code starts, it reads Claude.md automatically and uses its contents to orient itself before processing any input. This means everything you put in that file becomes part of how Claude approaches your project from the very first response. You don't invoke it, you don't paste it, it simply works. The first section every Claude.md needs is a project overview. One paragraph. What you're building, the tech stack, the architecture. Something like, this is a Next.js 14 app using TypeScript, Prisma, and PostgreSQL deployed on Vercel with a tRPC API layer for type safety. Before you type a single prompt, Claude already knows your world. The project overview section is the foundation. It stops Claude from suggesting the wrong tools. If you're on Next.js 14, Claude won't reach for React Router. If you're using Prisma, Claude won't write raw SQL. If tRPC is your API layer, Claude won't scaffold a REST endpoint. Every correct assumption Claude makes is one fewer correction you make, and that compounds across a session, a week, a team. The second section is coding conventions, and this is where Claude.md earns its keep. Every codebase has rules. Named exports only, know any types, prefer functional components, always use the custom error class. Async functions always have try-catch. These rules exist because your team learned them the hard way. Claude.md is where they live permanently. Without conventions documented in Claude.md, Claude will violate your rules at some point in almost every session. It infers patterns from context where it can, but inference fails at the edges, especially for project-specific decisions that have no obvious external signal. Explicit conventions documented once eliminate the violation entirely. The rule doesn't need to be explained. It's already known. The third section is equally important, what not to do, the don'ts list. Every codebase has things Claude keeps getting wrong, not because Claude is broken, but because your project's constraints aren't documented anywhere Claude can find. Write them down. Never use var. Never add console.log to production code. Never touch the migrations folder without explicit instruction. Never install new packages without asking first. The don'ts list is not about distrust, it's about specificity. Claude is a generalist operating in a specific codebase. The more specific your constraints, the more Claude's outputs align with what your project actually needs. A well-maintained don'ts list catches violations before they happen, rather than after, in code review, where they cost significantly more. 0, the number of times you'll re-explain your tech stack per session once Claude.md is in place. 0 prompts spent correcting the wrong import style. 0 code reviews spent catching the pattern Claude didn't know about. The document is written once. The savings accumulate every session after. The compounding effect runs in both directions. Every rule you don't put in CLAUDE.md is a rule that will be violated at some point. The violation costs tokens to correct, attention to catch, and review cycles to fix. And next session, it can happen again. CLAUDE.md doesn't just save one conversation, it saves the aggregate of every future conversation you'll ever have in this codebase. The fourth section is common patterns, and it's the most underused. Beyond rules, document templates. How does a typical API call look in your codebase? What does your standard error handler look like? What's the structure of a custom hook? Short code examples in CLAUDE.md give Claude a reference that overrides its defaults. When Claude sees your pattern once in that file, it applies it everywhere. The pattern section is where CLAUDE.md becomes a coding style guide that actually runs. Most teams have a style guide that no one reads and Claude has never seen. Put your key patterns, with actual shortcode examples, into CLAUDE.md and Claude applies them without being asked. Component structure, API call pattern, error handling. Each one documented once, applied every session. 3 times. Developers with well-structured Claude.md files consistently report roughly 3 times as many on-target outputs before needing correction, compared to cold sessions without one. The number comes from developer communities who have run this workflow long enough to feel the difference. The gap is not marginal. CLAUDE.md is version controlled. It lives in the repository, committed alongside the code. Every developer who clones the repo gets the same Claude context automatically. You are not building a personal AI workflow when you write CLAUDE.md, you are building a team AI workflow. That is a categorically different and significantly higher value proposition. Claude Code supports Claude.md at multiple directory levels, and this is where the system becomes genuinely powerful. The root file handles global context. Individual subdirectories can each have their own Claude.md that adds or overrides context for that specific area. The most sensitive parts of your system get the most specific instructions. Consider a payments directory. Its Claude.md might say, all Stripe calls go through the Stripe service class. Never call the Stripe SDK directly from feature code. Never log card numbers or CVVs under any circumstances. All payment operations must be idempotent. Those instructions only apply where they need to, and Claude will never miss them when working in that directory. 5. The minimum viable Claude.md has 5 sections: project overview, tech stack, coding conventions, what not to do, and common patterns. 5 paragraphs of good documentation turns Claude from a generic assistant into a codebase-aware collaborator. The first version takes roughly 1 hour to write on an existing project. The developers who are most productive with Claude Code are almost always the ones with the best Claude.md files. This is not a coincidence. The correlation between Claude.md quality and output quality is direct. Claude's outputs are bounded by its context, and Claude.md is how you permanently control that context. The frustration people report about Claude is usually a symptom of missing context, not missing capability. The onboarding angle deserves separate treatment. When a new developer joins a team that uses Claude Code with a solid Claude.md, they get something valuable on day one: an AI collaborator that already knows the code base. The architecture decisions are documented. The patterns are documented. The pitfalls are documented. A junior developer pairing with Claude in this environment gets context that would otherwise take months to build. This reframes what Claude.md actually is. It is not just an AI optimization tool. It is a living document of institutional knowledge. The kind of knowledge that normally lives in the heads of senior developers and gets lost when they leave. When you write your Claude.md properly, you are documenting what your codebase actually is for every future developer and every future AI session. 1 hour, a conservative estimate for writing a first Claude.md on an existing project. 1 hour invested produces a document that saves 3 to 5 hours per week in repeated context, corrections, and re-explanations. That return does not diminish. It compounds as the team grows, as the project evolves, and as Claude Code gets more capable. The honest take, Claude.md is one of the least glamorous things in AI development. It is documentation. Most developers skip it for the same reason they skip writing tests. It feels like overhead until you feel the pain of not having it. Write the file. Keep it current as the project evolves. Update it the next time Claude makes the same mistake twice. It is the highest leverage hour you will spend on your Claude Code workflow. The path forward is simple. Create a file called Claude.md in your project root right now. Write one paragraph about what you're building. Add your stack, your conventions, your don'ts, your patterns. Commit it. Tell your team. Update it the next time Claude does something you didn't want. The file compounds every time you touch it, and the developers who understand this are already doing it. New AI lesson every day. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next.